Second speaker, Mark Greer, A Letter from a Father. A Letter from a Father, Mark Greer.
A young military wife stared out of her window at the car in the driveway. Two uniformed officers exited the car, and at that moment, she knew. Her husband, a soldier in the United States military, had been deployed to Vietnam. But before he left, he told her, should two uniformed officers come to the house, it meant he didn't make it. As the officers made their way into the house and gave her the news that her husband had been killed in combat, she screamed, "No! Oh God, no, not my husband." And as the tears streamed down her face, she remembered a promise she made to her husband, that should anything happen to him, she would remain strong, not only for herself, but for their unborn child. You see, several months before his deployment, the young couple found they were going to be parents to a bouncing baby boy. So moved by that news, the young soldier was that he sat down on the corner of the bed, realizing that there was a possibility that he may not see the birth of his first child. So he took out a sheet of paper. He began to write a letter, and he started it this way. He said, "Dear son, although you have not even been born yet, I want you to know that there is not a day of my life that I don't think of you. You are the first thing on my mind in the morning, the last thing on my mind when I go to bed at night. Son, you are my life." If you're reading this letter, it means I'm not coming home. But I want you to know that although I may not be there with you physically, I am there watching over you, guiding you and protecting you. Son, I am always with you. As proud as I am to have you as my son, I am even prouder to be your father. Son, I adore you. I cherish you. I love you. And he signed the letter, your father. He sealed it in an envelope and gave it to his wife and told her on their son's 21st birthday, she is to give him this letter because that's how old he was when he went off to war. 3 months after his death, the young mother gave birth to a 9.5-pound baby boy. And true to her word, on his 21st birthday, she walked into his room and gave him the letter and simply said, "This is a letter from your father." As the young man read the letter, tears welled up in his eyes because at that moment he realized this man he'd heard so much about, his father, loved him so much that despite the adversity, despite looking at his own death, took the time to write a letter to a child he had never seen, never met, that he loved from a distance. That letter so moved that young man that he took out a sheet of paper himself and began to write a letter to his yet-to-be-conceived son. In his letter, he stated, "Dear son, although you have not been conceived yet, I want you to know that I anticipate your arrival, that I swear on my life I will be the father to you that my father was to me. Son, every waking moment I have is thinking about you, and I want you to know that I adore you, I cherish you, and I love you." But there was something still inside him. So he took out another sheet of paper and began to write another letter. But this time, the letter started, "Dear Dad, I want you to know that although we have never met and you weren't here with me physically, I want you to know that I felt you. Every step I took, every road I take, every place I went, I felt you with me, watching over me, guiding me, and protecting me. Dad, I promise with everything that is within me, I will carry your name with honor, and I will make you proud. As proud as I am to have you as my father, Daddy, I am even prouder to be your son. Daddy, I adore you. I cherish you. I love you." He sealed the envelope, sat down on the bed, and began to cry. 2 weeks later, he went to the cemetery where his father was buried. He placed the letter on the tombstone and told his father, "You are my father, and I am your son, and I will love you forever with everything that is within me." As he looked off in the distance, he saw a young boy and a father in military uniform. And at that moment, he knew his father was there. Mr. Contest, Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, there is no greater love on the face of this earth than that of a parent for a child and a child for their parent. Nowhere in the entire world is there a love that strong, so pure, so deep, so honest, so genuine. So this evening, as you leave this conference, go home. Some of you are parents, all of us are someone's child. But sit down on the corner of your bed, take out a sheet of paper, and begin to write a letter. And you can start it, "Dear son, dear daughter, I want you to know just how much sweeter my life is simply because you are in it. Dear son, dear daughter, since you arrived in the world, my life is nothing but heaven, even though it may not be so." But tell them, as proud as you are to have them as your child, you're even prouder to be their parent. And you can sign your letter, your mother, your father. And as I stand here before you this evening, I promise you that letter will mean as much to your child as the letter my father wrote means to me. Mr. Contest Master.